that we finish the presentations by 5 so that we have adequate time for the open comments. Victor Kalasinski, thank you for speaking with us.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Vic Kalasinski. I'm the named federal officer for the committee, but I'm also program manager for the Gulf War Research Program at the VA, which falls under deployment health in the Office of Research and Development, and Bob Yeager is Director of Deployment Health. So if something happens to me, he gets to present the rest of the slides. Hiding, sure. Just to give you some background, and I'll go through the background material quickly, but I wanted to put it in here since we have a couple of new members on the committee. We're part of the Gulf War Research Program that I'm involved with is in the Office of Research and Development, and this is the mission and vision for the Office of Research and Development. To give you a little bit of background into the research program that comes out of our office, there are 150 VA medical centers, about 116, somewhere in that ballpark, can do research or have the facilities to do research, and at any given time, at least 90 of them are funded by our office to do research. And you can see some of the other statistics here. There are lots of projects going on. VA researchers are publishing a lot of good work, as has been mentioned earlier today. This is the structure of the Office of Research and Development. In bright red, you have the 4 research services. So the biomedical laboratory, research and development, the preclinical studies, animal studies, tissue cultures, specimens that don't have a patient actually attached to them at the time. Clinical science, of course, would involve patients coming in for various kinds of projects. And you see under that we have the Cooperative Studies Program, which is a program that involves lots and lots of different locations into one big study. So those tend to be nationwide, typically 10 or more sites. So we've had clinical cooperative studies programs that have had as many as 40 sites. Health services, research and development, we were involved with that in the Gulf War program in terms of gauging the delivery of care that Gulf War veterans receive. And then in rehabilitation R&D, you can think of prosthetics as a very large component of that, but there are treatments, for example, that come out of rehab that have been applied to Gulf War veterans. So what I'm getting at is that all 4 of those services are part of the portfolio of Gulf War research in the VA. And just to give you an idea, there are pilot projects, small pilot projects, larger projects, what we call merit review, clinical trials, and then the career development awards for young scientists who like to retain in the VA and help them grow. And then there are service-directed projects where we have a need for a particular thing to be done, and so we ask investigators to set up a particular project. It still gets reviewed the same way that any of the others get reviewed, but it's a mechanism by which we can direct, we can give more direction to the research that might come out of, what did we say, clear, concise, and actionable recommendations. And then the CSP program, Cooperative Studies. And we have information on the web with different bits of what we do in VA research. This is sort of an overview, the text version of it, and then we'll have a picture much like that. Anyway, the point is in the first bullet that clinicians in the VA hospitals are involved in research. The same physicians who treat veterans, Gulf War veterans, are also involved in some of the research. There are also some non-clinician researchers, but I think the percentage is about 60% clinicians who are involved in the research that we find out of the Office of Research and Development. And that's sort of a requirement for us. We want to make sure that the research is aimed at the veterans who have problems. And so we make sure that the clinicians who are treating the patients are also doing research. The research in the second bullet, intramural, which means we only fund projects that are housed at VA facilities. If there are, some of our VA researchers have appointments at local universities, so there can be some interaction with universities, but the research has to be based at a VA facility, again, so that the research involves the patients that it's supposed to help. And the mechanisms, their requests for applications, another term is request for proposals. So any ideas that someone might have to be put into a request, basically. And then we've been releasing these requests for applications twice a year since 2011. Prior to that, they were released on a less regular basis, typically once a year. And then we have a specific review panel that involves, or that includes people who do Gulf War research and people who simply have the expertise in the technical areas that are being addressed in the proposal. So they focus strictly on the Gulf War projects, applications that come in. It's just spread them around. Every now and then we find an investigator who would rather have a study reviewed in another panel. We allow that. We don't encourage it. Here's the picture. It's terribly complicated, but the point is that we put together the request for applications. Proposals come in. They come in electronically through the system that the National Institutes of Health has put together. So it's exactly like the NIH, basically the NIH model. We have the proposals reviewed, ask a couple of questions over there in the room. You can see to the right, over there on the right. And then bottom line, the sort of oval yellow thing there. Somewhere in the range up to 20% of projects get funded. It varies from panel to panel, depending on how many proposals come in and how many proposals are reviewed highly. But we're in the Gulf War realm, we're still running somewhere in the range of 20% of the project. These are the RFAs that we've released this year. So you can see we've got different categories that the research can fall into, and we have 2 RFAs for basically animal studies. One is a pilot study, or a pilot kind of project. Smaller, shorter term, looking at something to see if there's an effect. The merit awards, as we call them, are larger projects, can take longer. Pilot projects, 2 years, merit projects anywhere from 2 to 4 years. So we've got variability there. Of course, at the discretion of the investigator. Clinical sciences, in addition to merit and pilot projects, we have clinical trials in there. So these would be treatment trials that involve Gulf War veterans coming in for another. And as I said earlier, the health services research and R&D is aimed at understanding how the care is being delivered to Gulf War veterans in particular. We found that in in talking with Gulf War veterans, we found that they have as much trouble navigating the VA system as any of us who work at the VA do. So we thought it would be a good idea to have somebody look into it and give us some hard numbers, statistics on things that go well and things that don't. We have 3 advisory committees that have input to the Gulf War Research Program. This committee, for example, is the one in the middle, Research Advisory Committee of Gulf War Veterans Offices. And mandated by Congress in '98, first chartered in 2002. And we have a National Research Advisory Council. That group advises all of the Office of Research and Development, not just Gulf War. So they're involved with every aspect of the research that goes on. And then at the bottom, the Genetic Medicine Program Advisory Committee, the GIMPAC. Anytime we have genetic issues, they get involved, and I suspect Dr. Leary can say something more about that with respect to me. We operate according to a strategic plan that we have for Gulf War research. And it was a while in getting from the original concept in January of 2011 to 2013. Took almost 2 years, more than 2 years, to get this through, and a number of people were really involved with that. And it grew out of a recommendation from the committee, this committee. So we appreciate that. And we're in the process of updating that. We have an update that's available, but momentarily, I think it's not supposed to be, but it's fundamentally the same plan, but with a couple of updates. In that strategic plan, we have in section 5. There are 8 focus areas, and so that's why there's a 5, because it's section 5, but thinking of 1 through 8, obviously, it's what those 8 focus areas are. You can see treatments are in the very first one. We have surveillance, and these were items that were on the OM's recommendation list from the Volume 8 report that Robert Wedge talked about just the third one, case definition, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Then there's a whole genetics, genomics, systems, biology section, so that's why we have the GIMPAC, the Genetics Advisory Committee, involved from time to time. Biomarkers, animal models, we've talked about a good bit already today. And then specifically, we wanted to improve coordination with some of our sister agencies and improve communication with other agencies and with stakeholders like Gulf War. And finally, translating research findings into clinical practice is an important part of it. It's the toughest part, I think, getting such research results in the clinics. To give you an idea of the funding, this is just the last 11 years, 2004 to 2014. Last fiscal year, $9.7 million in Gulf War research. And that's up from the year before, and the year before, and the year before that. So we're in the process of increasing that funding to have more and better research projects in Gulf War research. And our short-term target is $15 million a year, but I think I've been told that if we get to 15, I can go higher. So I'll have to verify that, I guess. But this gives you an idea. We've been expanding the program, and I think that's been a good thing. This is the same monies, but added up a different way, just to show you the total amount of money that has been committed in each of the past 4 years. So this basically adds up all the money that was requested by those projects those projects that are funded. So the 5 that have been selected or recommended for funding in 2014 will ultimately cost about $7.5 million. As I said, some of them are pilot projects that will last 2 years, some are full merit projects that will last 4 years. So that's $7.5 million is going to be spread out that time frame. So it's just a different way of looking at the dollar figures, plus the number of proposals and how many are funded. So this is a listing of the active projects that are going on right now. The top grouping there fall into the category of treatment trials, and to link this back to the strategic plan, we've got a 5.1 at the end because that's the treatment part of the section of the strategic plan that deals with treatment, so you get an idea of where these are going. And the second group, more of the mechanistic, diagnostic, biomarker kinds of studies, which some of them ultimately feed into treatments, and so they're sort of double listed just to know where they're going. And these are the ones that are more typically the biological laboratory research, so animal studies, tissue studies, culture, cell cultures, that sort of thing. But you see, they're all aimed at not just being in one area, but helping with some of the other aspects of the strategic plan that we have. So we're using that plan as a roadmap. And to update that, we'll make recommendations from it. So this is a list of kinds of projects that have been selected for funding that haven't started yet. So they're more descriptive. They're not the actual titles, but should give you a sense of the kind of thing that is in the mill. These will probably start, but some of them will start this year. It's just a matter of when all the paperwork gets finished up and we get approvals from RAC. So, this is a list of some of the projects that have recently been completed, so you get an idea of some of the, again, for those of you who are new on the committee, gives you a quick view of some of the projects that have been completed in the too distant past. As, well, I guess the Secretary and Robbie both said, we engage the IOM from time to time for various things. And one of the items in our strategic plan, 5.3, if you were studying for the test that will be at the end of it, has to do with the Go Forward case definition. And the IOM came back with 3 recommendations. And you can see the first one suggests that we use the CDC and Kansas definitions, and our response to that is that VA concurs, and so we're done. Nice, straightforward recommendation. Here's the second one.
Sorry, excuse me, I couldn't hear what you just said last sentence.
I wasn't paying attention.
Your response to the recommendation.
Our response is that yes, we concur with that, and so that's what we're going to do. We're going to use the CDC and Kansas definitions. And in fact, we've already incorporated those into the RFAs, so any investigator out there who is planning to request funding has in his or her hands a document that says you've got to use the Kansas or CDC definitions. So we concur with that recommendation, and we've already put it into practice. The second one, the committee recommends the VA systematically assess existing data, and we're in the process of doing that, looking at a lot of different databases and trying to merge some of them and basically make better use of the data that we have. So we concur with that recommendation as well. Number 3. The committee recommends that the Department of Veterans Affairs use the term Gulf War illness rather than chronic multisystem illness. Well, we concur in principle with that, and the term that we're planning to use is Gulf War illness presenting as chronic multisystem illness. Yes. Well, think about this. If a veteran comes into a clinic and has the symptom set that we associate with Gulf War illness, there's no clinical practice guide. There is a clinical practice guideline for chronic multisystem illness, and that's what our clinicians have been using for years to treat Gulf War veterans, treating the symptoms as they come in. So
Can I comment quickly? So again, the definition for chronic multisymptom illness encompasses anything from undiagnosed hypothyroidism to vitamin D deficiency. Those are conditions that have very different potential treatments. Why not instead generate treatment guidelines for Gulf War illness per se, rather than forcing it into this broader category that encompasses many different conditions with very different potential presentations, causes, and best treatment.
Well, the problem with that is that we have difficulty identifying all the symptoms of Gulf War illness.
They recommended that you call it Gulf War illness. There are good criteria, and you said you were going to use them. Use the Kansas criteria, and then you have Gulf War illness. Or you have a good approximation of Gulf War.
We're talking about treating it, not just defining it.
Right, but you treat it using those as inclusion criteria and just eliminate the exclusion criteria.
So remember, this recommendation is specifically pertinent to research. And we have to, there's a certain amount of bureaucracy associated with taking things from research into the clinical findings. In addition, chronic multisymptom illness is also a recognized term from VBA. And we need to make sure that however the department responds over time, we get all pieces of this act together so that we don't inadvertently have somebody fall through the cracks that needs to be caught up. So I think we accept the comments that are being made here, but we sort of have to get from here to there, and it's not instantaneous.
Yeah, the IOM made the recommendation for a reason, and I think or most of us, at least in the RAC, agree with that reason. And there isn't anything that I can understand that would create an obstacle. You're saying that the chronic multisymptom illness is a recognized term. Well, recognize the new term, and then it's a recognized term.
Yes. You missed the point. It's in legislation as chronic multisymptom illness.
We can have
Change it. Change it.
Excuse me.
Okay, but in the legislation, the way it's been operationalized, people who have Gulf War illness who do not have one of the listed chronic multisymptom illnesses are routinely denied disability. I know because many of my veterans have shown me the paperwork